Cassava is the most important tropical root crop. It is known to be the highest producer of carbohydrates among staple crops, making it a major source of dietary energy. The leaves are relatively rich in protein and can be consumed. Cassava can be stored in the ground for several seasons, thereby serving as a reserve food when other crops fail. Cassava is also increasingly used as an animal feed and in the manufacture of different industrial products such as chalk, pepper, and glue. Coming up on Seeds of Gold.
This cassava, growing it is very easy, but it has procedures. Out of these procedures, as we're going to look at them one by one, once you break one, you get the negative of what you expected.
Uganda is ranked 4th producing and consuming countries of the cassava crop around the world. Introduced between 1862 and 1875, different varieties have been grown in Ugandan soils, the latest being Narocass, having taken over the Nasi variety. Ivan Balamagawaswa is professionally a civil engineer and today a well-known cassava farmer dedicated to research and production of the Narocass variety, producing tons and supplying the available market.
I started growing cassava in 2016. That shows that I've not spent much time in this business because I'm on the scale of commercial. I spend much of the time in research to know much of what I wanted to start on a business basis. Yes. And after achieving and acquiring all the research I wanted, that's where I started immediately after finding out all the challenges that lead to a big number of farmers in Uganda, East and Central Africa, to leave farming and resume to other businesses. I specialized in a breed or a variety called Narocass. It has 1 and 2. There is no any other breed that is Narocass apart from 1 and 2. If you go into deep details of this breed, it was a collaboration between Uganda and Tanzania. And it was brought here in Uganda in 2015 in form of a seed. That is how it is said in details. When it was brought as a seed here, it was cloned. Then from cloning, it went in 2 stages, from nursery, primary, advanced, then to the garden.
Narocass 1 and 2 variety was introduced to improve the previous NAS variety, and as a result, the Narocass variety has been proven to have better qualities compared to the Nasi variety. Some of the qualities include better resistance to pests and diseases, resistance to drought and require less care in garden, high yield production for over 30 tubers from one plant, and can stay over 3 years in the ground before harvesting. But achieving this requires patience to follow the correct planting and care process.
This cassava, growing it is very easy, but it has procedures. First and foremost, when you want to start this cassava on whatever basis, whether domestic or commercial, it does not require to grow or cultivate it in a garden or land or area where you have not plowed with a tractor. Because the advantage of this breed, it spreads in the ground, but it doesn't have the strength to penetrate hard soils, to spread. So when you don't use a tractor in the beginning, this cassava will grow, but it will not give you the yield as you expect. You see this hand hoe, the way and the size of it, the depth that it gives you underground, it's even not a quarter to the depth that we achieve from a tractor.
Cassava is a very interesting crop to grow, considering the fact that it does not require much to start with. All you need is a piece of land, no matter how small or big, depending on what your intentions may be. Also to note is that it does not require much rainfall nor fertilizers. Cassava can grow in any type of soil, which are not waterlogged and may require a moderate amount of capital to start with.
First of all, this cassava does not require manure. We don't put manure in cassava growing. The moment you put manure in your farm of cassava, you won't harvest any yield, even any single tuber like this from down there. You cannot. It will just be very interesting to look at. You look at your farm, but you'll end up giving it to cows and pigs to eat the leaves. This cassava can grow in any condition and any situation and any type of land, apart from rocks and in water. It's not advisable and it's not ideal to grow it in water. Even if you don't have land, but you can hire land. So it doesn't matter whether you're growing it on your own land or you have hired it or what. But the first procedure is to have land, even if a plot. Because you may have a dream of starting with a plot of 50 by 100 for multiplication. And then you come into an acre and into even 100 and thousands of acres. Even us, we started with the 1 acre. And today we are about 285. Then after acquiring that, you are advised to get to inspect the land that you have got and see. It may have trees whereby a tractor will not work. First inspect the land where you're going to cultivate. See if there are trees, first remove them. Also big ones, and leave the ones at the boundary, as you see here. Leave the ones at the boundary. Because why do we remove the trees? This cassava of ours, when it grows, it makes a shrub. We are not destroying the nature. But since it also makes shrubs up, it's almost a forest. That has not been there before. So we don't open it with the nature, no. And then after removing the trees with another tractor that is capable to do that, then you bring the one we use in the garden. Now it will be very easy for you to go through it, plow. Then after plowing, you are advised to get stems. Our stems have standard size. The stems we cultivate shouldn't go beyond 1 feet. Whoever out there who knows a tape measure can adduce to me and explain more about 1 feet. This is what I'm holding, between 8 inch to 1 feet. So the reason as to why we have a standard size of between 8 inch to 1 feet, it is to avoid the germination coming out with many buds and trees of their own. We need limited buds or trees on each stem. The branches, the trees shouldn't go beyond 5. Maximum, if it goes beyond, must be 6, but it's not easy to find 6. But if you cultivate a stem that is beyond 1 feet, you'll find even more than 10 because of these eyes. We don't also cut these stems in our farm. They come, as we said before, in bags of 100 kgs. But here, since we are demonstrating, we have managed to get one around us, and we want now to show how we plant. And remember, I told you, in a hole we put one stem or seedling, depending on the size. If it is medium size, it has to be 1 in the hole. Medium, that is big, not big. Then a small size, they have to be 2. Then the big one has to be 1 in the hole. And they want to see how we plant the big one and the small ones. Let's start. Remember, in lines here, we may not have the string to give us the lines, but we have already demarcated the lines. So it's 1 meter by 1 or 3 feet by 3 feet spacing. And our hole, remember I told you, it shouldn't go beyond 6 inches. And 1 meter by 1, if you don't have a tape measure, use your steps. Now from here, you just stand here, step 1, and I have to put here. Then do like this, in lines. Step here, do like this, in lines. Okay? Then from here, do like this, in lines. Your step. Right? 1 big stem in a hole. We even don't put much soil to cover. More so if we are in the rainy season, because rain will keep on covering it. Then this is now the small one, we put 2, like this. Then big 1, and go, like that. You don't need to cover it much.
For the Narocass variety to grow well and yield better, vigorous weeding is an integral part of the process. As the cassava grows through the 4th month to the time of harvesting, it will require lesser weeding. Weeding by use of a hoe will not be required, as in this stage we are cautious not to harm the tender growing tuber that is not far from the top layer soil. Balamaga advises here to implement the use of spraying the unwanted weeds in the garden, but with caution not to spray on top of the plant.
We have a recommended chemical that you can use and spray. It will also help you the grass to dry. If we are spraying this chemical, your sprayer or the gun should not be up. Don't lift it up. Even if you're tired and you want to have rest, just put it down. The moment you do like this up, rolling it, you are spraying now the leaves that feeds down. Automatically, it will dry. But for us, we use this method, more so in the one that is ready to harvest.
Narocass is a disease-resistant variety, but like all cassava varieties, the most common disease is the cassava mosaic. This, however, does not pose any threat to this variety. Balamaga, however, warns farmers to look out for the brown streak disease, which could be very disastrous to a commercial farmer.
This type of cassava, the difference in it is from other breeds or varieties. It's only that it is resistant to almost every disease. The side of pests and diseases, it has been good, though there is a major one that I'm going to hint on. This is called brown streak. Brown streak is, write the word brown and then put streak. It is S-T-R-E-A-K. Streak. That is the major disease that has been disturbing a big number of farmers in day-to-day life. There are some small flies which are white. They always run out there because of heat and enter into our gardens. Now when they enter into our gardens, they tend to hide under the leaves of our cassava. Now when they hide under the leaves here, because of lack of what to eat, they start feeding on our leaves slowly by slowly, unknowingly that they are there because of heat out. Now in the long run, you find that these flowers, these leaves start turning yellow because the chlorophyll has been sucked out. Yes, not only that, when you see that yellow color, try to look critically in your garden. Then the downy leaf will be black, like you see here. They have ever attacked us, but they are easy to maintain and solve the problem. Now when you find this one, the lower one, when it's black like this is the asusu. What is the treatment of this when you see one in your garden? What you do, if you have a water source, you can spray water into your farm. Only spray. If you don't have the capacity that can afford a machine, you can use even these buckets, watering cans. How do you know that this tuber is damaged by the brown streak? Once you bring it out, you'll find it with rings like beads, sapuli, like that, rings. It will ring itself. A piece, even if it is 2 feet, it will have rings like this. And when you cut it in 2 pieces, you'll find a black color in the middle, a line of which is black in the tuber. So that cassava is already dangerous. You cannot eat it. Even there is no any animal that can feed on it. When this comes to that stage or that level, the advice is to remove the stem and burn it to avoid spreading. How does this disease spread? It can be spread by tools, garden tools. Cutting a diseased plant with a panga and then cut it with the plant that is not diseased. You have already spread. It has moved from this one to that one. So you have to use one tool. After using it, take it and use it to other things. And then from that disease, we also face another one, which is not so common these days and which is much resistant to this. Because this cassava, as I told you that it lives by resistance, it can resist it. That has been around over from 90s, the early 90s. Is the cassava mosaic disease. It looks like it is chopped, but not. Now, this is a symbol or a sign of cassava mosaic disease.
At 12 months, the cassava is ready for harvest. The variety has been proved to be the highest yielding variety on the market. 1 acre will accommodate 12 bags of 1 meter cut stems. One mature plant will produce over 30 cassava tubers. One tuber weighs about 2 to 4 kilograms and will cost about 1,000 shillings, and a sack will cost between 100,000 shillings to 150,000 Ugandan shillings on the local market.
When it comes to market, in Uganda, when we bring out our products from the garden, we say we are taking it to the consumer. But here, everything that concerns food, you and me, we are the first consumers. And other markets, first of all, look around the community where you live. A piece like this one I'm holding, if you go to your nearest market, Moaso, go to Nakawa, go to Makindye, you can go to Bwaise, go to Kalerwe, everywhere your nearest market, the market that is near you, where you can afford to step. A piece of this kind, you'll find it at between 2,000 to 3,000 Uganda shillings. And as we've seen here, one stem of Narocass can give you between 37 to 40 pieces of cassava. So if you can sell a piece, let me say at your farm, at the lower price, you're going to sell this at 1,500. Even if 1,000, let's say 1,000, and let's put it at the lowest price, 1,000 times 30 or 35 pieces. That's already 35,000 a stem. And our acre consists of between 2,600 to 4,000 stems. That is an acre. So it is easy for you who is watching us on NTV now to know how much do I get from an acre of land. It is a self-explanatory question for you to calculate. Cassava is not only for food consumption, no. Here in Uganda, we have so many brewing companies who also look for cassava because it's also an addition to some of the beers we normally enjoy taking here as Ugandans. So if you're looking at the market of cassava, don't just look at it on the basis of the market that is near you. Also try to think about big markets here in Uganda and outside Uganda, because according to the research that I've done so far, cassava is the leading cash and food crop in Eastern Central Africa. In Thailand, there is a high market of cassava. In Netherlands, there is a high market for cassava. To those who have been there, they can adduce to what I'm trying to illustrate here. When you go to China, market is there, you know? So we should stop this song of crying poverty, what? Me, I always call it a joke. You know, Ugandans, we like jokes a lot more than work. Instead, we should put the jokes into working. That is the only way to go.
The Narocass cassava variety is so far one variety with the potential to harvest gold from the farm. What you need is to take the initiative to invest, be patient, and find your way to add value to this ancient yet still lucrative and healthy crop.
I appeal to my fellow Ugandans that agriculture is known here in Uganda as a backbone of our country. So Ugandans, let's not run away from agriculture. Agriculture is still a right way to go in accordance of fighting poverty and avoid being beggars, of begging people here and there. Let's go back to garden. We shall become actually the winners.